My name is Fredrik Wikholm. I'm a co-founder at Planethon, and I drive sort of the development of science and business intersection. So Planethon is a company that titles itself Planet R&D, sort of the bridge between Earth science at large, what we know about our planet, and business, how we do business in this world. Because it's quite clear to us that how we do business needs to be deeply and profoundly influenced by how our Earth system works, and we help companies at large build their business on how Earth works and what we know about it today. So our sort of end users or clients or partners, however you want to describe it, is one part like companies overall building something, and therefore business developers or C-suite management. Often it starts with a CEO that's defined that they want to make a transformation of how they build their business from being not so very sustainable to being sustainable, or in our case, planet positive, or in a direction of planet positive. So that's one side of it. How do we build things? And then the other side of it is really investors at large. How do we invest in what is to be sustainable now and in the future? And often, I think both of those find themselves in the same conundrum, which is filled with good intention and a knowing that we need to do things differently. We need to listen to like a bigger Earth system of how we extract resources, how we then build things, how we look at whatever is the byproduct, and so on and so forth. But there's still a lot of guessing. There's multiple ways of assessing what's sustainable in terms of investment. There's, for the most part, a unique process of working on sustainability challenges in almost every company. So there's really no united front, and very little of it is really sort of based on the knowing of our planet, what we've actually known so far. So in the case of Planethon, we try to make it substantially easier to understand what are the things we actually need to address, what are the technologies out there that you can utilize to address them, and how do you build innovation processes to make it happen. So that's sort of us and our dear partners and end users. Fundamentally, when we go about something, we say that we are a Planet R&D company. So the research part is enormously important. We're heavily anchored in massive sort of data sets, enormous amounts of knowledge about our planet and all the complexities of our planet. How does an ecosystem work locally or on a broader scale? How does the atmosphere work? Where are we currently standing in global warming? Yada, yada. It's a lot. All of that data is data on a massive relationship, right? It's like the Earth system and all the social systems on top of it are social graphs that are knowledge graphs that are enhancing graphs, right? It's regenerative graphs, you could even call it. And so for us to use something like NEO is fundamentally very, very important, because it's at least trying to apply a real system to how the real system looks, as in stark contrast to almost all other storage of data up until now. And it simply makes it easy for us to see relationships that are relevant, extract and synthesize key insights, and simply see things no one's seen before. So for Planethon next, we're in an exciting stage of both having to perform for real with a lot of clients and partners, like big industrial players in the world that are committed to basically building new versions of themselves that are sustainable and are in alignment with how Earth's system functions. So for us right now, we're in a stage of R&D with many of these companies as partners. That's one big part of it. The other part of it is really just amping up and the capacity of our technology. So right now we're in a stage of getting ready for funding. We're onboarding a reasonable staff size, but now we need to ramp up developer teams and just build and build and build. We've done 2 innovation sprints or lab weeks with Neo. One very early and one once we've dug in a little bit deeper. And the very first was really, we had some graph understanding, but it was really just how do you apply graph to it's siloed earth science, and trying to sort of make understanding of like how are we capable, is it going to be tricky or not. And that was really good. It was fundamentally really what it did for us. I think it clarified maybe something we already knew, but it was without a doubt very clear that we're a graph company first. That is the sort of the actual outcome of that sprint. Second sprint, we had data sets, we had a direction. So what we could do then was to go a lot more towards the data science part and simply work with graph algo on a more complex level, and really focus on something that I think partially is quite new to the graph world as well, and we could be like more guinea pigs for it. And that really helped us hammer out our sort of process rationale in how we build technology and what we want to achieve. And it actually validated our idea. It went from idea to reality. We can actually use graph algo on graphs to get the answers that we're hoping to get, which is sort of what are the companies of the world to invest in, to support, that should lead the way for a sustainable future. When approaching graph or stepping into a lab, at least I am very hungry to jump to conclusions, and at least I, who come less from the technological background and more from sort of the research and business development background, it's easy to sort of start jumping to conclusions and feeling borderline fragile and frustrated along the process. But just sort of hold on to and trust the process, I think, is one of the key factors, and also get in there with real cases. Like, it's so much more valuable if it's real data, if it's a real hypothesis. Even if you just come out having crushed your hypothesis, it's better than sort of fictive, it's tough to just learn how to swim on land, as someone just said, get in the water and use it. It's like, what you will most certainly get out of a lab is that you've learned a whole ton. That's the fundament.